Was he up in Alaska?
Thank you. There he is.
Bob? Biggest thing that things could be dangerous.
Good evening. Welcome to the Monday, July 10th meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission. What's your pleasure regarding the minutes?
Motion approved.
Second. Motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. We've got a pretty full house tonight, and I see a lot of people signed up to speak. If you haven't signed up and you would like to speak, please go ahead and do so. Are there still sheets back there? Yeah. Okay, on the back table. And then when your name is called, come on up to the podium and speak to the Plan Commission. Thank you. Old business, item number 1, consideration with possible action on the request to rezone 606 South Broadway from LI to LIC1 to office residential, and a conditional use permit for a shelter facility submitted by Pastor Rico Transformation House. Recommendation is to receive and place on file.
Make a motion, receive, place, and file.
Second. And a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item number 2, consideration with possible action on the request for a variance from section 14-724 of the subdivision and plating ordinance to allow for land division less than the allowable lot area at 1121 Elizabeth Street, submitted by David Krauser, Mao and Associates.
Thank you. So we've actually seen this application before. This is for the mobile home park that's on Baird and Elizabeth. They had applied for a CSM to do a variance to allow for the southern portion of the parcel to be lotted off for the existing sheds to remain under different ownership of the existing mobile home park. So when we had talked about this previously, we had wanted a little bit more information from the owner. I know that he's here today, and the applicant is here also to speak on this about what their future plans are, what they're looking for as far as the division, what it'll mean for future occupancy, and if this use will remain. With that information, we are still recommending a staff denial, only because ownership issues are not eligible for variances by our standards, which are listed in the staff report. But if you do have further questions, the applicant and the owner are here to address if you have any specifics about the ownership of the property.
Thank you. Are there questions?
Madam Chair, I need to recuse myself on this issue.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Yes?
Did they sign up to speak?
I believe so.
Yes.
I would like to hear it. Make a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
Thank you. Dave Krauser?
I presented this last time that we were here, probably a couple months ago, and we do have the owner that's here tonight, or one of the owners on this. What they're looking at is probably selling, it's looking to sell probably the trailer park, and they want to retain ownership for this. They keep this garage right now for stuff that they've got. They have lawnmowers for other properties that they have. They have coolers in there for when they go deer hunting, that they can keep their coolers, and that's what they use it for. And it serves more purpose to them than what it does to anybody owning the trailer park. So I can answer any technical questions that you may have, but otherwise I'd like to have Jeff step forward and explain it to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff, and your last name is Harold?
Harold, yes.
Thank you.
President of North Baird Mobile Homes, and we just been approached in the last few months to potentially sell the property. And at this point in time, we have no offers or anything, but we felt that it was in our best interest to start kind of getting ready for that, since my dad's passed away 3 years ago. So really what we're looking at doing is just trying to keep the use that it is currently. It's a piece that is from a previous potential sale they're not really interested in. So I'm looking at just to try to keep that. Once again, we just keep some, we have our lawnmowers in there. We have other properties close by that we need to cut the lawn, and we just have a lot of stuff in there that We just like to continue the use that it is, and if anything were to happen, you'd have the right to look at any type of building that would have to go there, in a PUD or whatever. As far as the property and what we're doing, right now, we're just really trying to get that piece out of there, just so we can keep it for its current use.
Are there any questions? Okay, Mr. Harold, okay.
If this were to be denied, what would the next option be?
Well, that's a good point you brought that up. Yeah, I mean, right now, if we do not get the certified survey map with this variance, then you're forcing us to sell it with the rest of the facility,
Right.
and we really don't make any more money out of it or anything like that, so it's just kind of putting us, we cannot go any further. The trailers are on one side, and as you can see, and then all the other boundaries are private partners or private use. So it really creates us a choice to either do this, or we got to include it with the existing park. And there's enough storage with the place where my dad built many years ago, there's enough storage in that facility. We bought the Elizabeth Street Park, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago. And this is what was with Elizabeth, this is where they had to store their stuff. But we have plenty of storage in the North Barron, and it really is no use to current buyers that we're talking about. So that's why we felt we just like to take it out and keep our use. We don't have to get any of our stuff out at that point in time. Otherwise, you're really forcing us just to include it into a package that we're not really going to get any money for it. And we cannot extend it. There's no way to go back any further, as you can see.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Do we need a motion to return to the order of business?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. So I see the recommendation is not to split them off. And I'd like to learn a little bit more about that, because the lot is just short of the 20,000, correct?
It's
So-
4,000 square feet short,
It's
so
4,000
not
square
just,
feet.
but yeah.
And the negatives of splitting it off, other than following the letter, following the ordinance, but the other negatives of splitting off a piece of property would be,
Well, it's creating a subpar lot. So right now, looking at it, it's just, oh, well, they want to split it off because they don't want to change the ownership of the sheds. They don't want to move the things that are in the sheds. But going forward, 20 years from now, when this lot, if the mobile home park changes to a different use, this could be part of that, where I would want to do a changeover, do some rezoning in the area potentially. And we've created a lot that's far too small and on the floodplain. So we're creating a situation which we're going to have a really hard time redeveloping this in the future if we were to split it off from its existing parent parcel. So that's why we have these lists for the modifications for why we can do these variances, because we want to protect ourselves in the future. Because right now, it might make sense, but even 5 years from now, we could be putting ourselves in a really bad position.
so then we'd end up with this piece of property that would be zoned differently from the other piece, and then they would need to come, if somebody wanted to purchase both, then they need to try to get it rezoned again, back to what it was.
Well, the zoning right now isn't necessarily an issue. It's in our existing use, so we could keep it the same. But I know that, I think that the comp plan calls for multifamily in this area or something like that, a little more high-density use. But even if it retained its, right now it's GI, if it retained that, there would be such a limited opportunity for redevelopment to start. But then also looking at the whole area, that we want a little bit more density here, taking that and parceling it off could just put a chunk of GI with sheds in the middle of a bigger development area. So that's why we want to be careful when we're downsizing, giving variances for lot size. We could be putting ourselves into a bit of a bind when it comes to redevelopment.
Thank you. Yes, Alderman.
Personally, I look at what is out there and, the proximity to residential properties in the neighborhood, and, we can talk about maybe the whole thing would be sold and it would be all part of a development, but, when you look at the residents that that live out there, I think you want to have something that's kind of transitional, that is not going to negatively impact the residents. And I really think that what they're talking about here is kind of a passive use of the property. You're going to maintain the property. You know, it's not just going to be a back lot that that somebody that buys the trailer park will just have as a back lot that they're not really using. You know, we can't really predict what a future owner of the trailer park might, whether they would want it or they wouldn't want it. But you know, I guess it really comes down to whether it meets the qualifications that are here right now. You know, I think A, when you talk about physical features of the site or its location, well, you know, there are some considerations there. Proximity to residential properties that might fit into that. Is it the least deviation from the ordinance? You know, I don't know how you could deviate any less. Is it not detrimental to the public interest? I don't think it is. You know, I don't think it hurts in terms of circulation, recreation, light air service needs, you know, that are talked about here. I don't think it will. What they're requesting really impacts that. Because for the use that they're talking about, there really wouldn't be much in terms of public services to the property. And that's it. So I don't know. Personally, I can support it. I don't think it's the biggest issue that we have before us, but I understand what they're trying to do here, and I do think it does provide somewhat of a buffer to the residential properties that are nearby.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner Wisbisky.
Question for staff, has the alderman in that district been heard from, or do you have any?
No feedback.
That's unusual, Joe, interesting, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I tried to call him today, but I didn't reach him.
I have a question for staff also. This area is zoned general industrial. Is that apropos for a trailer park?
I believe it's
Not at all.
Okay, so if it was going to
non-conforming
be,
use.
if it went up for sale, would it have to be rezoned?
No, it's
Non-conforming?
considered non-conforming, and that use could, those uses could remain there indefinitely.
Okay, what would it have to be rezoned to be conforming?
Well, that's a good question, because we really don't have a zoning district any longer that allows mobile home parks. So it's kind of, they're kind of no man's land, they're kind of stuck with this non-conforming status. And as these units get replaced, we kind of keep track of those units. There's a threshold that they can meet, and they're going to have to somehow comply with the standards. So there's not a simple zoning answer to fix it necessarily.
If this parcel that we're talking about were to be split off, you said, under the general industrial, it doesn't fit, it's too small, almost 4,000 square feet too small. What if that parcel were to be rezoned, say, for residential?
We've already looked at that a little bit. This would be considered spot zoning though, because what would be appropriate zoning for an existing shed would be something that wouldn't fit in. It would be the only, I don't know what we looked at necessarily, but it's surrounded by other things that wouldn't be complementary to that use either. So any sort of rezoning or PUD would lead to spot zoning. So that's why the variance is required, so. Sorry here. The variance makes a lot more sense than to do any sort of rezoning for this, especially because the use isn't changing at all.
And you couldn't rezone the whole parcel to be more conforming, even if we don't know for sure?
Well, we'd have to end up looking at a planned unit development, and that could be kind of
Okay.
hairy, I guess. It'd be a real challenge to put something like that together. There's also a floodplain component here as well. The entire area is in a floodplain. And that kind of leads into this parcel being substandard and being able to be buildable someday. So I think short term, yeah, I think you could approve something, but long term, I don't know how that property is going to be reused from a zoning perspective and from a floodplain perspective, because you're most likely going to have to elevate those structures a certain height.
Thank you.
I could answer a little bit on that floodplain. We've redesigned numerous sites around the city, a lot of them actually along the bay, where, you know, somebody buys a 50-foot lot, then they try and build a house on it, and we need to meet those floodplain regulations. And we've been able to do that on those 50-foot lots for the structures that we've done along the bay. We probably have to do something very similar to this, to where we actually take the adjoining properties into account to make sure that any water that's actually coming off those sites, we're not ponding it on any of the other sites. Those are all those plans are always go through the city, and they review them, and we come to a mutual agreement so that we're not impacting the neighbors. So does it limit some of the use of the property? Absolutely, because either we're doing retaining walls to bring this thing up, or you're getting some decent side slopes, so you could lose some of the buildable area, but it can be done. It can be, because we do it just about every day. So, thank you.
Thank you. Yes?
For me, the key terms that are coming up are extraordinary hardship or injustice, and that's not sticking out to me in this situation. So I don't see a reason why we would go forward with it based on what's been put in front of us now. It's almost handicapping the lot itself for future, I would think as well, by being substandard. It fixes a small issue now, but I think the intent is not to have a mobile home park there forever. I'd rather not create more of a problem down the road for the area as is. So I would, in my opinion, I don't think it's meeting the hardship, or extraordinary hardship quality there.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion?
So I guess this is a question for staff. As far as that, where they would draw the lot line, would they be drawing it even with those two large lots that are to the west of it? I don't, that map.
Yeah, we're a little bit further to the north on that than where that is, because we're obviously trying to keep that 75 feet of minimum frontage that we have to have.
Gotcha. And those are 3 residential properties that butt up next to.
On the south side, yes.
Right.
I have to agree with the staff on this, that this isn't a hardship and it doesn't fit all of those items on the list. And I don't want to have it be a hardship for the landowners, but we also have to look at the overall piece of property and what our city ordinances say.
I concur, and with that being said, I will make a motion to deny the request.
Second.
Thank you. We've got a motion and a second to deny. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Thank you. And this will go to City Council, Stephanie? And
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. Thank you. Thank you for coming in. Item number 3, consideration with possible action on the request to rezone a portion of 1621 through 1627 Main Street from general industrial to general commercial, submitted by Tom Hummel, property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a request to rezone 1621, 1627 Main Street from general industrial to general commercial, C1. That's a 2.5 acre parcel roughly. That is on the north side of Main Street, northeast of Main Street, between Elizabeth and Deckner Avenue here. This is the site. There's a couple buildings on site. They're both, well, one is currently vacant. This used to house Schreiber Foods at one point, and the other one in the back is more of an industrial type of structure that is used for personal storage. This is somewhat of a commercial area along Main Street, north of Deckner, residential along Franz, and as we go further northeast, this is kind of an industrial area. The city's comprehensive plan recommends commercial in this area, again, kind of following through in that commercial corridor. So here's the property and showing the commercial designation. And this is the zoning of the property. As you can see, there's a lot of general industrial in this particular area. This is the subject parcel here. And that's part of the problem, is that the current zoning, general industrial, really kind of prevents some of the marketing of this piece. So we've talked to the applicant. They've actually talked to us about coming in and doing a rezoning that would create a lot line, well, not a lot line, but a zoning line between the two structures. They have people who are possibly interested in it, in the property, but are not willing to go through the rezoning process. So the owners come through and made a request to go through the zoning process. Typically, we don't like seeing zoning lines kind of floating in the middle of nowhere. However, this is kind of a unique circumstance, and this rezoning could be a catalyst for a future sale and redevelopment of the property. So we do have a good legal description provided by a surveyor who can delineates that exact boundary. So we've got some good delineation on that. So we are supporting the request tonight. We did notice affected property owners. We haven't received many calls or questions on this, and again, we're supporting the request.
Thank you. Yes?
This one isn't my district, and I'm supportive of this. This is an area that we'd like to see some redevelopment going on. It's been, that building has been vacant since Shriver moved out to the downtown. If this would help, I just don't see any downside in it, so I'll move to approve the request as recommended.
Second.
Okay, we do have somebody here who said they'd like to speak. Mr. Helmer, would you still like to speak?
Yes, please. My name is Tom Hummel, and I'm the owner of the property in question here. And I guess it's just to go over the thing. We've had the property on the market for quite a while, and we're trying to do something to develop it. I don't understand zoning laws real well. It was pointed out to me here on the end. We do have a person looking at it. The best I know, I would say, is that the property is not zoned for what they're doing. At what I understand, office and things like that in this area. The industrial prevents them from doing that. And the basic thing is we're trying to move ahead with this property. I'm kind of looking for retirement, I guess. And we're hoping to get it rezoned in that. Paul, if I have this right, I believe quite a bit of it behind there is industrial. I mean, and the back parcel of this would just basically fall right into what's kind of there already. And my neighbors are there, so I hope that this kind of fits onto what can be used on Main Street for a development. I think it's a nice project that goes ahead, so that's basically what I have to say. We're kind of trying to get around the fact of moving forward with this parcel, and zoning has been kind of a problem for us. So, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Were there any other questions at this point? We've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you for coming in. And again, next Tuesday at
Thank you
City
very much.
Council. Okay, item number 4. Consideration with possible action on the request to rezone a portion of I'm reading the same one over. Consideration with possible action on the request to create a planned unit development to permit 20 units within the Priory building and to construct 20 townhome units located at 645 South Irwin Avenue, 1300 Block Cass Street, submitted by Kevin McDonald, Commonwealth Development Corporation of America, Franciscan Friars Assumption BVM Province, Inc., property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a request to create a planned unit development for the St. Mary's of the Angels campus, which is at 645 South Irwin Avenue and 1300 block of Cass Street. This is the property in question. It's about 4 acres in size. It's sandwiched between Mason Street and Cass Street, surrounded by residential on the south side, some commercial along East Mason Street. The comprehensive plan recommends public or semi-public uses. There's also a little bit of high-intensity retail office or housing that's along that property. This is the current zoning of the property, shown as low-density residential and just a little bit of commercial there as well. The proposal is to create 40 residential units on the property. 20 units will be in the old Friary building, which is just along South Irwin Avenue here. They'll be adding some additional parking to the north to provide the parking there. Another 20 units will be in the form of townhomes along Cass Street and South Barrett Street. There's a 12-unit and an 8-unit proposed here. Again, with another driveway cut, and there'll be internal connections between the units there as well. This is the elevation. It's about 2.5 stories. This is the 12-unit. This is the north elevation. I'm sorry, this is the north elevation here. This would be the elevation facing Cass Street. So the staff has worked with the applicant. We put together a planned unit development that's attached within your agenda. There is one unique, well, there's a couple unique things about the property, historic elements. There is a wrought iron fence that runs along the border of the property, and there's some significant hedges along there. Those are hopefully will be retained as part of this redevelopment. There was a neighborhood meeting that was conducted by the applicant from the church, I believe, back in early June. And I think there's a number of neighbors here tonight who'd probably like to speak, I think, in support of the request. We did notify affected property owners, as you can see from the boundary. Really just had a couple of calls, informational calls about the intended uses there. So we are supporting the request based on, or subject to the planned unit development that's within your agenda.
Thank you. Are there questions for Paul?
Yeah, one, do you have any concerns at all about the intensity of the development?
No.
I like that you're always straightforward, Paul. Thank you.
I think it still meets the density ranges even under the low-density residential development. I think the unique thing here with the PUD is that to address the friary.
Yes.
And that helps address the multifamily component. I would consider these to be more single-unit or single-family type uses. The multifamily was something we needed the PUD to pick up on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That was the question I had as well. Are there other questions?
Move to suspend the rules to hear from interested parties.
Second.
Thank you. Let's see, we have some who said no to speaking. Kevin McDonald.
This may be a bit overkill, but you've seen some of this stuff. I just have some example kind of historic properties that we've done. Hopefully you can see them a little bit there. And then just a bigger version of the site.
I can't see them at all.
Use their result.
Take ours down if you want. Let's see. Well, and you've seen the elevation. Maybe some of you can see that. So yeah, my name's Kevin McDonald. I'm Vice President of Development for the Commonwealth Companies. So thanks for having me tonight. We're the proposed general contractor, property manager, and developer of the project. We're based out of Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. To date, we've developed about 1,500 units in Wisconsin, and we manage all of those. The majority of the units that we've developed are in the Fox Valley. This would be our first project actually in Green Bay, so we're very excited about that potential opportunity. We're also always like to highlight that we're a long-term partner in the communities that we've developed. To date, since 2001, we've developed, we're going to be coming close to 50 properties, and we've never sold a project that we've developed. So we really like to point out that we're in it for the long haul, and we'd welcome anyone to come see any of the projects we've developed. And a lot are just a close drive away. So, as I mentioned, we're our own property manager, which also gives us a lot of quality control over the future quality of the projects that we develop. We do full criminal and financial background checks. As a general contractor, always want to point out that we're hiring local subcontractors. We self-perform very little. We have a few painters and finish carpenters on staff, so we will need a good number of local construction jobs. Let's see. And then, in addition, well, we're just very excited for this to be our first project in Green Bay, and to present our Firehouse Flats proposal. Paul kind of went into some of the details, so I won't go into any more of those, but you know, just in general, we're using historic tax credits to preserve the Friary. So every little historic detail will be preserved. You know, on down to the wrought iron fence that was brought up. So it will keep the kind of current look and feel that's there. Obviously, we're adding 20 new construction townhouses, so that would be the one big change. But you know, that's all. Well, we've worked really closely with staff to make sure we had a plan that blended in well with the neighborhood, and to ensure we can provide a good amount of green space. As Paul mentioned, the density is really consistent with the surrounding neighborhood, so we feel really strongly about that. The proposal, we're going to have a clubhouse for the residents to enjoy. We'll have an outside property management office with an outside property manager to make sure we're being the eyes and ears for the neighborhood. We've got a good number of residents and neighbors here today that would potentially like to be residents as well. So we're very excited about the initial response we've seen there. Just a little more detail about the Friary. So that building, what we're proposing is a mix of 1 and 2 bedroom units within there, preserving the hardwood floors. There's just beautiful woodwork in there. The property's in great shape. Hasn't had a whole lot of use, which is actually one of the reasons why we're here today. The Franciscans really don't have the need for the space anymore, and they've been looking actually for a while to find something that works. So we're really excited that we found something that can be feasible, that will allow the property to continue to serve the neighborhood and create the highest and best use for the city, and really put the property on the tax rolls, and you know, allow the church to continue to operate and add some more great residents to the great neighborhood. I guess with that, I can open it up for any questions. Just other details on the townhouses, they'll all have their own individual entries and attached garages. The parking for the Friary, excuse me, will all be surface parking, so the Friary units won't have garage spaces. And the townhouses are all 3-bedroom units along Cass and Baird.
And what's going on the other side of the driveway? Where it's still green space? Is that remaining green space?
There.
Nope.
Up
back-
here?
That big
Yeah, this
area.
is all gonna be green space. There may be, we're showing some garden beds down here. There may be some garden beds that would be utilized there, but it really will stay green space. The church has a pretty big garden that they would like to continue to do some gardening, so it'll be an opportunity for both residents and parishioners to continue to do the gardening.
Thank you. Yes?
Just a couple of questions. I believe the property is currently tax exempt, and I presume with the development it will all become taxable, right?
Correct.
Okay. I noticed in your letter that you said the demand for apartments in the city is at an all-time high. Do you have some marketing study or something that supports that?
We don't have a full one done yet, but we have been in contact with our market study provider, so we should have something shortly.
I was just curious because we run into issues with apartment proposals from time to time, and you know, if there are any statistics out there that you wouldn't mind sharing with us, you know, I'd at least like to see it.
Yeah, I know the affordable. I think the last data I saw, which may have been a couple months old, from our market study provider, I think he was saying that occupancy was about 97%. So at least in the space that these are being proposed, the demand seems to be high.
Only one other question, just out of curiosity, how old is the friary?
Oh, I was gonna look that up. It's like, if Paul was here, he knows the exact date.
125 years, isn't it?
125 years. Wow.
I knew it was late 1800s, but, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner.
Nice follow-up to that question. Does Commonwealth have any past experience doing adaptive reuse with historical buildings?
Yes, so we've done a number. We've done a number of schools. Trying to think. We actually have a couple under construction right now in Fond du Lac. We've done a previous one a number of years ago in Fond du Lac. We've got one that's another school that's about to break ground in Prairie du Chien. We have one in the Wausau area, Schofield, one in Rhinelander. So we've done a number of schools. We have, I think, like 4 different factory conversions that we're doing in Indiana right now. So we have a lot of experience with historic redevelopment projects, and we've already engaged. We work with a group called McRusty Historic Advisors, they're one of the national leaders in historic preservation consulting. So they assist us with it, and our internal design team, M&A Design, has worked on all these projects with us. So we have the same design team who's very familiar with historic preservation projects.
Delighted to hear that. Thank you.
Is there other questions? Yes.
I'd like to see what you got down there.
Oh, yeah. I should have held it above my head or in front of my face so you can see well. So,
Some of the projects you've been working on?
so this is Historic West Elementary. That one's in Rhinelander. This is another church that was a restaurant at one point, but is actually back to being a church. But we developed that. It was a beautiful banquet space that we converted that into. And this is just an interior of actually one of the units in Historic West Elementary School.
Great.
So, and I'm sure that this is probably something that you work with staff on as well, but I really appreciate that the driveway and everything is behind the buildings. And then leaving all that green space and the tree line with the neighbors on the other side. Do you have any future plans to develop that green space on the other side?
No. And I guess the manner in which these are developed, we bring in an equity investor to purchase the tax credits, so we wouldn't really have the ability to even develop that even if we wanted to.
And these are all rental units, you'll never think about selling them or condo or anything like that?
They're all rental units at this point. Yeah.
Thank you. Other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
And I should say, we have I'll read off the names and whether or not they're for or against this, of the people who don't wish to speak, but Brian Wozniak is for this, and Jean Wozniak is for this as well. Elizabeth Pagel, I don't know if you're for or against.
Or,
Thank you. Mary Jacobs is for. Janice Kehoe is for. Bernie Skoletsky, would you like to come up and speak?
Do I have to give my name?
I already said it.
Okay, I think this is a win-win for Green Bay. Number one, it's non-taxable now, it'll go on to taxes. And it's a good deal for the Franciscans, because they don't no longer use it. And I think it's a good deal for Commonwealth, and we're looking forward to working with them. I'm St. Mary's of the Angels parish member. And so dollar-wise, I ain't got nothing involved in this. And for the parish, I'm sure we're gonna get along good with Commonwealth, but I can't tell you anything about it until 10 years from now. But I sure hope you pass this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen Skaletsky is for this. Donna Schoenberger is for. Mary Wilkie is for. Michelle Pigeon, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I'm just worried that
Come on up, please.
the high-density living is going to adversely affect the surrounding neighborhood, people who live, I mean, I live just kitty corner and across the street, so I'm really concerned about that.
That it's too many people in one
Yes.
spot?
Yes. So
And
I'm
what parts of that-
opposed to it.
Okay, what parts of that do you find most concerning?
What do you mean, as far as the development?
No, as far as why the increased density might be a
Well,
problem.
I guess just having people that are renting instead of owning. That concerns me, the high density of that in an area that otherwise doesn't really have that.
Would you point out where you are,
I am
please?
right across from this building here, so I'm right over here.
Oh, thank you.
Are there any other questions for her? Thank you very much. Kevin, Mr. McDonald, can you tell us what the price point of the rents might be?
The average rent is about $650 per month.
And how many bedrooms in each?
So there's 1 and 2 bedroom units in the Friary building, and then there's all 3 bedroom units in the townhouses.
Okay.
Could I just ask one question while you're up here? What about parking? How many parking spots are provided on site?
What is the total? I think it's right around 80.
It's on this big one over here, 85,
85, okay, thank you.
20 covered and 65 exterior.
Thank you. And Ellen D. Kaiser, would you like to speak?
Yes.
I'm with Michelle on this in that I am concerned that having a residential area, which is all pretty much owner-occupied, single-family homes, having something like this move in would be kind of detrimental to our property values and to our peace and our way of life that we have. When we bought into this neighborhood, we bought a neighborhood, we didn't really buy into a complex. I am a landlord, so I know what goes into finding proper tenants, and it's not easy. And you get a lot of transients, and you get a lot of people that maybe come and go and don't really care so much about where they live and the people that live around them. We have a nuisance property 2 doors down, and to me, that's enough to deal with without having to worry about 40 more. So my thoughts are that taking a residential neighborhood that's really struggling to survive because really we're being turned into a parking lot. Every time we turn around, there's another parking lot being added to our neighborhood. To have something of this magnitude be added was concerning to me. Looking at the plans, having the parking lot not visible from the street is a plus. I think that would be a huge difference. Keeping them fenced in like that would probably segregate them from the neighborhood, so I'm thinking that that would feel kind of separate. So if you were to do something like this, I think it would be better to make it more inclusive so that they become part of the community rather than this thing on the end of our block. So that's my thoughts on that.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to return to regular order of business?
So moved.
Second?
Now, I thought somebody mentioned that this was a dense neighborhood in terms of multifamilies. Did I hear that wrong? Am I making that up? You know?
I think there's a demand for multifamily, I think is right.
Okay.
I think maybe what Paul was trying to correlate in terms of the density for the townhomes and even the apartments, if you look at spreading those evenly across the block, in terms of like how many units there would be on those blocks. If you divided them up and made them all single-family homes, it would be roughly equivalent to what it would be as if you developed them as single-family homes. They're just, the townhomes, you know, again, kind of fit the block size, but the church and friary itself, because it takes up so much space. I mean, right now, there's no residential there, but if you tore it down, I'm not tearing it down. But if you tore it down and just did the whole block in terms of just all single-family homes in there, you have about the same density. I think that's what Paul and the staff is trying to get across in terms of that.
Okay, thank you.
In terms of,
That-
again, bedroom
that's
units and people and those type of things like that. If this were, you know, a bulk south where everything is a single-family home and then the traditional lot sizes you have here, this would be about the same density if you did the same here. I think that's what we're trying to communicate.
Thank you. Commissioner Berman.
Perhaps my question goes best to the Commonwealth representative. What will be the ongoing relationship to the church?
So basically, we'd be the owner of the entire property.
Commonwealth would.
As long as the church is in existence, the parish is in existence, they'd be required to continue to maintain their space and pay for their utilities. Besides that, they're technically like a tenant, but they don't have to pay any rent. They just basically have to pay their upkeep and their utilities.
Okay. Thank you. I must say, that from my perspective, the church's presence there makes a difference, particularly around the issue of, that you raised about getting appropriate tenants and managing the property well. Even if they are not in the management of it, they're still there. And I think that that historical connection is likely to have a positive impact. I know that in Green Bay generally, we have a resistance to renters as opposed to owners. But townhouses have been very effective elsewhere in town as a way of finding an intermediate ground between those two. So I think I'm in support of this.
Yes.
Someone wants to speak.
Can I say something? I didn't sign anything.
Come on up, please, and state your name and address. Thank you.
Sure. My name's Louise Fotenhauer, and I live at 1314 Cass Street, which is directly across the street from the church, So this definitely directly impacts me. I'm delighted to hear that they're going to keep the fence and the green space. I was a little bit concerned about a clubhouse thing, as I haven't seen that yet. But I do feel...
It's on the end of the 12 unit, right at the end, on the
Oh,
east
got it.
side.
Okay.
That's listed there.
And I like it that there's another driveway there, otherwise everybody would be turning in right in front of my house. So that pleases me. It also pleases me that there is a buffer between me and East Mason Street, because East Mason Street is bad. And if we can keep it nice, if they are in the business of hiring or doing background checks and everything and managing the property, I think that's great. In my block, there are 3, 4 rental houses, and then if you go around the corner, you hit 4 more around that corner, and that, you know, I mean, it's, and these are houses that are being maintained by individual owners who are not maybe as effective at it as they might be. I just, you know, I feel a great loss at the loss of all that green space, and it's a very special church. But, you know, I would rather see the townhouses than the backs of a McDonald's or whatever is going to go up on East Mason Street. So, thank you.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Louise.
I should tell you that I spoke with Alderman Galvin. He is down at a meeting on the second floor. He was not able to come up here to our meeting right now, but he did tell me that he is supportive of the request.
Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Wisniewski.
When I first saw this, I thought this was really kind of a unique way to put a good use to these properties and actually get back on the tax base. I do have the experience of living across the street from the Sisters of St. Francis. And yes, there's lots of activity, but I'll tell you couldn't have any better neighbors. And I like the fact that the Commonwealth is actually going to be the property managers, which is going to kind of offer the same type of environment that I basically have. I'm fortunate enough that I actually spawned a woods between my property across the street and their property behind the woods, and told them not to touch my woods when they built their facility. And they're great people, and they keep it really clean, and I think this kind of reflects on this almost same circumstance I have. I love keeping the church historic value of it. I think that's an important issue. The driveways were already mentioned. They're coming around from the backside. I love the fence. I love the green space. It offers you kind of a buffer. And I guess the ultimate decision maker for me on this is that the density, if you did not do this, could head in that same direction, and you could have probably a heck of a lot worse maybe than what they're offering here with the efforts they're putting forth to keep a unified effort as to what the gentleman has shown as his credentials in other areas. So at this point in time, I would make a motion to approve.
I second it. Got a motion and a second. I would like to say that I think it looks like a nice development. I am still concerned about the density as well, because what it says in here is that there will be 20 units. And if this was developed as single families, it looks to me like it would be more like 9 or 10. So that still increases the number of people going in and out, and with space for 80-some cars, that's pretty intense on this one corner. So that would be my hesitation with this. Everything else about it, I really like. I think it's going to, it's well done, and it's going to be a nice part of the neighborhood. I don't know really what the options would be in terms of the density, though. And that, for that reason, I would need to vote no. But so, is there any other discussion?
I think, to what the last speaker spoke about, I've looked at a lot of multifamilies in that neighborhood and on Cass Street that were converted from single-family houses, and a lot of them are not kept up. I think that having the management property that's in it for the long haul, I think also that the fact that they're proposing townhomes versus something like a big complex. I think, if you look at the Whitney townhomes and how it really just blended into the neighborhood, I think that this could do that as well. I know the vacancy rate in the city is low, and it sounds like they have a good screening for their tenants. I have really good luck with all the tenants that I have, and I think going through the proper screening is a big deal. I think that they would be a really good neighbor, and I would live there. I would live in that neighborhood. I've lived in that neighborhood, so I would be for the proposal.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Yes, Vice Chair.
I would just like to say that knowing our planning staff, they're relatively conscientious when it comes to density. And if they say there's not a huge concern in that regard, I tend to take them at their word. So I would be supportive of this.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? And then this goes on to City Council on Tuesday.
Never sell your
Item number 5, consideration with possible action on the request to rezone a portion of 2580 University Avenue from general industrial to varied density residential and highway commercial to neighborhood center, submitted by Steve Gita, Mao and Associates, on behalf of TMD Properties, property owner. In addition, the planning staff is expanding the request to include the following properties: 2500 block University Avenue, to light industrial to neighborhood center, 2560 through 2566 University Avenue, light industrial to neighborhood center, and the westerly portion of 610 Bear Creek Road, general industrial to varied density residential.
I think, Madam Chair, that's the biggest heading we've ever had.
That was a lot.
So this is a request to rezone 2580 University Avenue, which basically is the old JBS building or the Packerland Packing site, and that's located right here. So, as you're probably very familiar with the area, the developer was here last Plan Commission meeting and gave a presentation. So tonight we're just looking at the zoning and switching those lines around to be consistent with the comp plan and the University Avenue redevelopment plan. So you're very familiar with the area. There are two major rezonings or portions that are going on here for rezoning. One is to an R3 category, and the other one is to a neighborhood center. We'll distinguish between the two different colors here. So this is the comprehensive plan. Actually, it did show industrial back in 2002. Shows some commercial along University Avenue and some multifamily along Beverly Road and Bear Creek Road at one point. As you know, this was restudied as part of the University Avenue redevelopment plan, and those recommendations slightly changed from industrial to more multifamily and even some kind of mixed-use developments along here. So this is the current zoning of the property, so this is what we're trying to correct tonight. There is one thing I wanted to mention, and talking to the property owner along Beverly and Bear Creek Road, we discovered there's some errors in some of our mapping. So we used to have old linen maps back in the day. We converted those to digital, and some of the lines got adjusted a little bit. This is the map from 2005, and it showed that actually there's some more industrial zoning that goes over on this property here. It's not really shown. So it doesn't really affect the request necessarily, but we'll clarify that as part of our legal description when we go through that process. But I wanted to mention that there is a slight difference. Again, this is the conceptual plan that was provided by the developer. I think you've seen that in the past. So I just want to again clarify the zoning changes here. There's two zoning districts. We're looking at R3, and that boundary here, this east boundary, will change to pick up about 350 feet of this property here that was not correctly shown as part of some errors. And then these properties in front will go to neighborhood center, as well as about a 3.5 acre piece that the RDA had suggested for neighborhood, or for mixed use. We've put that in NC and this into R3. So the developer is here tonight. If you have any questions, they have their team along, but we are supporting the request to rezone as proposed and amended, as I mentioned.
Thank you. Other questions for Paul? Yes, Commissioner Berman.
A couple. Paul, first of all, have you spoken with all the other owners that the planning staff wants to include in this?
I have not talked to this property owner, but I did ask the developer to reach out to them, and I think he's done that. I haven't heard an objection. I've been on the phone the past couple of days with Mr. Frankenthal, who owns property along Beverly Road, Bear Creek, and this piece here as well, and he does not have an objection to the request that we talked about.
Is the request then consistent with the current uses of the properties?
Well, not necessarily. There is a single-family home that's left here on that property that'll simply be non-conforming.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
The other lot is vacant. There is some C2 zoning that'll be changing. That'll be kind of a down zoning to neighborhood center.
I am confused by a minor detail on the third page of the staff report, and that is it refers to 6 separate parcels, but then the listing seems to be of 3 rather than 6. Oh, no, I see, it's numbers 1 through 3, number 1 and number 1 through 2. Got it, my oversight. And then something else on that last page, you say, because of the detail provided in the developer's agreement, it was felt by staff that a planned unit development was not necessary, and instead a straightforward rezoning was suggested to the developer. The detail provided in the developer's agreement, is that agreement in any way enforceable?
Yes. So, development agreement, and I'm just pulling it up here, tri-party between the redevelopment authority and the city. The developer, as part of that agreement, in order to meet, to receive their TIF incentive, is required to bring forth a number of things for approval by the RDA, and they're planning on doing that actually tomorrow. Part of their obligations that they need to provide, and I'll just pull those up here, is they need to provide, and RDA needs to approve a concept plan, which in that concept plan identified, and that is vehicular, pedestrian, bicycle, ingress, egress to the property to the south, basically access to the park. Access within and 2 entrance endpoints, access to the park through a trail, and then carving out that corner for retail. And with that, they also have to submit their construction documents, which they've got some materials here, I think if you have questions. So in terms of plans and specs for all the buildings, we need full color elevations, the finishes, description, samples of some of the exterior building materials, examples of the interior finishes, and then other items that the RDA may deem appropriate, and then a development budget. So RDA has to approve all of those things. We felt with that, instead of doing both the PUD and the development agreement, it's being approved by RDA, and then staff felt comfortable giving RDA the authority to do that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Are there any other questions?
I move to approve the request.
Second.
Someone to speak, correct?
Mr. Vieta is here. Would you like to speak?
No, I did, thank you.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thanks for coming in.
Is there a place we can keep that?
Yeah, we'll put it in the conference room and just pull it up here tomorrow.
Okay.
You want me that all here?
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you. Sure.
They have a presentation? We didn't get a presentation?
Thank you. Come tomorrow. You can touch
He
it.
said he didn't want to talk.
But like,
Item number 6, consideration with possible action on the request to rezone 2996 Finger Road from low-density residential district to neighborhood center submitted by Mach 4 on behalf of Uncle Mike's Bake Shop.
So this is a rezoning request for Uncle Mike's Bake Shop. I'm just kind of orient ourselves. We have the I-43 business park to the south, Mason Street, Challenger, and then Finger Road. This is kind of the corner parcel that has some existing multifamily homes on it. Comp plan amendment was done in 2016. We changed, we changed this whole area to kind of medium intensity residential office housing.
Just
There we
trying to
go.
dazzle us, Mark.
So this is consistent, the rezoning is consistent with that. We're going to neighborhood center. Neighborhood center should provide a nice transition from the residential area to the north, the more intense uses of the I-43 business park to the south. The existing zoning of the area, to the south we have a large PUD, so is residential, but that is the I-43 business park. To the north we have single-family zoning R1. It's a mixture kind of some duplexes and single-family residents immediately in the area. And then to the east we have a PUD that was done, and nothing has ever been constructed. So it's not cooperating. All right, so This is a conceptual site plan, obviously this is a rezoning only, so we are looking at the land use here. But we did work with the developer on a proposed site plan. They are at this time showing kind of a corner-oriented building, trying to line up the driveway best with the neighbor across the street, avoid any lights or anything affecting that neighbor. And then providing some nice landscaping along the north. They are showing about 30 parking spots for the proposed use. They're indicating a nice kind of pergola seating area out front, kind of a nice corner-oriented building, really enhance that corner. One thing the staff will point out, in the neighborhood center zoning, we do have a floor area ratio requirement of 0.5. The site plan as shown today is substandard for that. That is something the developer will have to address, obviously, prior to construction. There's several ways they can do that, and I know they have some information of how their plan is at this time. They did provide some mock elevations, kind of what they're showing for the building. But again, I want to emphasize we are talking the zoning here and the land use, but it was nice that they provided kind of some of those documents. So staff is recommending approval of the request. I feel it will kind of work well with that transition between residential and the I-43 business park to the south.
Thank you.
Any questions?
How far are they off from the minimum floor area?
So this site plan, I believe, is at 0.17, and the requirement is 0.5. So it is a pretty big distance, but there are some things I could do to kind of address that. Yes.
What are they doing? Is that just like a bakery?
It's
or
a retail
coffee shop?
bakery, Uncle Mike's. They've got one in Howard, they've got one in De Pere. There's a small, I did not include in the packet, there's a small seating area, just a couple of seats, but it's mainly a retail bakery. You come in and get your crinkle, your donuts, your cakes.
Donuts. It's delicious.
Are they sure they don't move downtown?
For a lot of people.
I just moved my
Downtown,
daughter to
there's a
right
place
next
on-
door.
Yeah, what about on West Walnut? There's that one place that used to be like a radiator place and now it's vacant. It's perfect.
It's too close to where I work out, that's all.
I will note that petitioners did hold a neighborhood meeting last week. I know some representatives of the neighborhood are here as well, and the petitioners cannot speak to how that meeting went. We did not hear anything back for the for or against petition. I did speak with Alderman Dwayne on it. He was generally in favor of the use.
So there's access both on Mason and...
No, the only access point will be through Finger Road. No access is allowed down to Mason Street. This is really just the back out turnaround for the southern parking.
Thank you.
So we went with neighborhood center. Was there a reason why you went with that over different zoning?
So commercial zoning wouldn't be appropriate in this area based on the comp plan amendment we did. And then we'd be having commercial immediately adjacent to a residential area. The neighborhood center zoning is kind of intended for that use of transitioning from your lower intensity to your higher intensity uses. And it would be consistent with the comp plan amendment we did last year.
We do have people here to speak on this issue.
Move to spin the wheel.
Okay, Mr. Mock. Bob Mock, would you like to speak now?
Yes.
If people have questions, we might ask you to come back.
Okay. Bob Mock with Mock 4 Engineering and Surveying. We are the petitioner for the owner on this. Originally was our intent to have it zoned commercial. That would have made the site plan compliant. It's kind of a little bit counterintuitive with the neighborhood center, and the commercial neighborhood center requires a floor area ratio of 0.5, commercial requires 0.1, so it requires much more intense development. One idea I actually had as I was sitting here, because if they move forward with this site plan, we would have to go for a variance or potentially a conditional use. And the thought that I just had was we could, because in the neighborhood center, the lot sizes are quite flexible, we could create a small lot around the building to meet the floor area ratio, and then get a conditional use for the rest of the property as a surface parking lot. So is that something that, first I heard of it. I just thought of it about 10 minutes ago, so.
We'd have to look at the options, I guess.
Okay. But yes, we are considerably deficient when it comes to the floor area ratio for neighborhood center zoning. We had a neighborhood meeting. Generally, people were extremely supportive. They loved Nan's coming to this reaction.
They've tasted them too.
They love Uncle Mike's Bakery. It didn't hurt that they were serving bakery at the meeting. But I think it would be an excellent neighbor for this neighborhood. One thing that they did voice, and because to meet the floor area ratio of the 0.5 here, typically what you have to do is go multi-stories. You have to go 2 or 3 stories, or, conversely, have your parking above or below ground. Same thing, you have to go vertical to meet that floor area ratio, as well as the 20% green space. So that was one thing that the neighborhood was very against. They did not want to see any multifamily housing in there. They didn't want to see.
Multi-story, you mean?
Well, multi-story or multifamily. Sometimes what you would end up with in this is a situation where you have commercial on the first floor, housing rental units above. They were not keen to that idea. They liked this proposal, but yeah, that will be our challenge, addressing the floor area ratio, whether we do it as a conditional use for the surface parking or try to apply for a variance. So, any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
How soon will it be?
Did you bring comments?
They would like to be open November, December is ultimately the goal, so.
Thank you. David Catalano, you said you do not want to speak in your neutral.
I'm just here from the Neighborhood Association, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Phyllis Seidel, would you like to speak?
Yes. I know I put a question mark there. We've lived there for 13 years. We like the neighborhood, and it is a very neighborhood-friendly kind of thing. We really preferred the other layout as well because we felt it was more aesthetic to our neighborhood. And if we can work that out, that would be very nice. I mean, we're more than willing to have Uncle Mike's there. I think that was a general consensus of the entire neighborhood. But we would like them to be able to work it so that it works for them as well. And, being told you gotta go 3 stories up and whatever, and I don't understand that. When they own the property and they're willing to put a business there, I would think that's something you would be in favor of.
Thank you, and I think we're not voting at all on the way it looks or the layout or anything like that.
We're doing a straight zoning, so we're looking at is the land use compatible with the area and the comprehensive plan.
Okay, and then does it come back in terms of design or anything like that?
It would not need to come back. They'll have to work through the staff process. They know there's several options out there of ways they can go. One of those could be coming back to this board if they chose to see the conditional use option for surface parking. They chose to go to the BOA for a variance for the floor area ratio. So they have quite a few options in front of them, ways they could address things.
Okay, thank you.
We have optional plans.
So they had another version of the plan that was at .08 floor area ratio. The driveway kind of lined up with the front of the home across the street and the building because more of in the center with parking all the way around it. Staff felt, trying to get a more corner-oriented building for a prominent corner, lining those driveways up would be a better use for the area. Oh, and he's got a copy of it if you'd like to see it.
Dennis Seidel.
Yes, I'm Dennis Heidel. I live at, Phyllis is my wife, and like she said, we lived there for 13 years. We are in favor of having Mike's Bakery come in. We do, I look forward to not having the apartment building that's there right now because of the fact of it's not very well taken care of at times, and it does create extra traffic. However, like you say, you're not considering the optional plan, but the optional or the original plan would be in the corner, and that just, it doesn't appeal to me because it doesn't enhance the neighborhood. I think something a little bit more off the corner would enhance the neighborhood, and not going up any higher would enhance as far as blending in with the single-family homes that are to the north of that. So that's Other than that, I'm in favor with Uncle Mike coming. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mike Vanderwall.
Mike Vanderwall, owner and bottle washer of Uncle Mike's Bake Shop. Sorry I didn't bring any Kringles along for.
We're glad you didn't think we could be bribed.
So anyways, we've been in the bakery business 16 years. We have a store in De Pere. We've been in De Pere 16 and Swamico 13. We're right on, there's houses across the street from the De Pere store. And we've always, we never had any problems. And we actually bake at the De Pere store. This store would just be a selling store. So there'd be no production, so we'd be bringing it from either De Pere or Swamico. Like I say, we get along really good with the neighbors. Almost on a daily basis, we have customers coming in thanking us for being a part of their community. And we always try, help out whatever way we can in, donations and stuff like that. The neighborhood seemed like they were really welcome for us to be there, and we were hoping it all works out great.
Thank you. Are there questions? Thank you very much.
Sure.
Good luck. Jeff Schrader.
I live 2 houses off the northeast corner on Finger. And the reason I showed up tonight was kind of the reason I showed up last winter for when we were talking about the chiropractic place. I get a letter from Mark Lyons, and the gist of this letter is changing from low-density residential to neighborhood center. And this letter is directed to us common homeowners. And I go, the same thing happened back in December, where there was nothing on the website at the city, any place, saying what low-density residential means. And I looked in, and you couldn't find it on just a general search of the internet. And the same holds true for neighborhood center, those 2 terminologies. And so I kind of go as, what am I supposed to think of this letter? What does it mean to me where I live? I don't know, because...
Yeah, we really send those out encouraging you to contact us, and we can go over everything and show you the documents. The zoning map, or the zoning ordinance is online, that includes those terms on the city website.
It is?
It
Okay,
is.
because I tried to find it, I used the search
city
feature.
The city website is awful. And they're actually in the process of hopefully working towards a new one that will fix some of these issues.
Okay.
The city website is not in a good place right now, and hopefully, as they use the city website with a new provider, we can fix a lot of that.
Okay.
It's on the agenda for Finance Committee tomorrow to award an RFP to do a whole new city website. It's something from, at least our department has been pushing for, and they've been working on it the last year just because we are not user-friendly. And staff has issues getting through stuff, so we know the public has issues, so that has been a top priority for us. Just, look, I think Mark's right in terms of we encourage that dialogue, but we also want to make sure that, look, if it's off hours or whatever, that there's that access there. So I don't want to detract from your conversation here, but that is something that we will have a new website by the end of the year.
And hopefully in the new website, we have the ability to put out a lot more information on it. Right now, we really don't have the ability to add.
What is the difference between the 2?
So low-density residential is basically your single-family zoning.
Okay.
Neighborhood center is a transitional district between residential and what would be like commercial or industrial. So it's a district that's intended to buffer between your low-intensity uses, residential, and then your high-intensity uses like the I-43 Business Park.
Okay, but low-density residential, at least that was what it got rezoned to allow for the chiropractic place when it was under consideration. So it's not just what you just...
So it's 2 different things. The first is the comprehensive plan. The city has a long-range planning document, comprehensive plan. It identifies what that document believes should be the land uses in the area. So last year, we changed the comprehensive plan from, it was a mixture of high-intensity, commercial, and low-intensity, to this medium-intensity comprehensive plan area. That is just a guiding document, it is not the official zoning of the property. So that's what was done in
So-
2016. It was changing the comprehensive plan, which is that kind of long-range vision of what that area could be.
So right now, it's low-density residential, which is single-family homes?
No, so the comprehensive plan calls for medium-intensity residential office housing. The actual zoning district, which is what is kind of the underlying thing, right now is zoned low-density residential. The proposal today is to change this kind of yellow, low-density residential district to neighborhood center, a zoning district that allows this type of low-intensity commercial use.
And so if you vote to change it today, then that doesn't, is no guarantee that Uncle Mike's goes there, because they don't meet the something per foot area, something?
Before a building could be built on that site, they will have to address the floor area ratio, and there's several avenues out there that they can choose to do that.
And one of which you've been promoting is putting apartments there?
No.
Okay, because there was plans available at the get-together last week that I was told was brought forth from the city.
No, we
about
had a
putting-
meeting with Uncle Mike's, and we told them about various ways other people have done higher density development. The city is not telling them how to address it. That would be their choice.
Okay, but you would be opposed, because if the parking that was shown on the east side was moved to the west side, you just, flip that over, now that parking is probably the farthest away from everybody across the street.
So the original plan had parking on both sides.
Well, and I assume that they would probably use because the entrance then would be facing the west. So I assume that their employees would probably park in the back, and that people would,
Both plans they submitted to us had the same building orientation with the entrance on the same spot,
which is,
on the south.
okay.
But again, today, we're really looking at the land use. Is Uncle Mike's an appropriate land use here? The site plan is something they'll have to work through the process of.
Okay. Well, what other, so does Neighborhood Center allow for apartments then?
Yes.
Okay, because I think I speak for probably everybody on the other side of the street, that would really be, I don't know, probably not good for our land value. And there's so much traffic on that road right now, it's unbelievable.
And I can't say if the city would support apartments there. The request we have and the district that goes along with it is what we're looking at today.
Yeah, I mean, because I think, like probably most people, Uncle Mike's would be a good neighbor, but not if that, comes with, oh, we have to put up all these apartments to make it happen, kind of thing, and.
To my knowledge, no one has told them they have to do that.
They can be done together or separately, but we're not promoting multifamily necessarily. It's up to a developer or property owner to make that proposal.
Mr. Schrader, are you asking also what else could go into a neighborhood center?
Yes, that's, I guess, one of my concerns, yes.
So neighborhood center would allow, office uses, similar to the chiropractor that was discussed last year, other medical uses of that kind of small-scale nature, other things similar to Uncle Mike's, small intensity retail uses are a lot of the uses that are listed within the neighborhood center district.
But it takes out the car lots, it takes out the fast food restaurants.
Right.
It takes out the surface parking.
Yeah, if this went to true commercial zoning, you would introduce those auto-related uses. Those McDonald's, those high-intensity commercial uses.
So this is like a hybrid district that's kind of
Mhm.
neighborhood friendly, I guess.
Yeah, okay. How does one have influence on, like, you guys approve the plan?
The plan will have to meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance.
It will. You guys won't give a variance on that?
No, there's a body they can go to for a variance. That's one of the options in front of them.
Okay.
You'd probably get notice as part of that process.
If they choose the variance option, notices will be done of that hearing. If they choose the conditional use option, notices would be sent out for that option.
Okay.
And your support would certainly be welcome in any of those settings.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Deborah Calwoods.
Good evening. I've lived in the neighborhood 18 years. I'm the fourth house from the northeast corner. I love to walk, so I walk down to Challenger. And the way it's set up now, it's from Mason to Finger. It's a very busy intersection coming off of Mason onto Challenger. So seeing the building being put right on the corner like the building is now makes it a safety concern for me, because Uncle Mike's is going to be there. People are going to be walking, riding their bikes. I like the idea of having the building more into the center of the property that was going to be purchased to set that. Have more green space or parking closer to Challenger, so it's not so constricted for an individual or a bike rider, individual that's walking, or a bike rider on Challenger to be dodging the cars coming off of Mason, which is something I do regularly. I welcome Uncle Mike's. I think it would be a good addition to the neighborhood. I'm glad to see that apartment complex would be going away, because since I've moved there, it has just gone downhill. So to see something that's more neighborhood friendly is something I was excited about. But my concern is possibly having a 2 or 3 story building there. 2-story is not so bad, but as far as apartments, I kind of would like to get away from that. And a 3-story building, if you look at the industrial park, what faces Mason, we don't have 3-story buildings facing Mason. So to keep it low profile, I think would be more friendly to the neighborhood. My other concern was possibly not having enough parking lot with how the building's set up by the plan, that if it's put in the center of the lot, we can have parking on both sides of the building towards Challenger and then to the empty field. That I think might be more beneficial than having people that come to the bakery and have to park on the street. And then it's going to make it hard for us to get out of our driveways. Since Mason Street was straightened, Finger Road has become a speedway. They like to beat the lights on Mason, so there's some mornings when I try to go to work, I have to sit and wait till I can go through, and the people are just shooting down Finger to try and beat the lights to head towards 43. I find the same thing at night when I come home. So to have the parking in the lot, I think would be beneficial for us too as neighbors. But my big concern is the traffic and the people. We have a lot of bike riders and we have a lot of people that walk. And I think pushing that building up to Challenger is going to make it a safety concern, because like I said, I usually have to jump onto the green space to avoid cars coming off of Mason. So otherwise, I'm all for Uncle Mike's.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So do we have someone to return us?
Move to
So
return.
moved. Second.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? Just a reminder that we're voting on the zoning tonight and not on the building or where it's located. But it's good that you came in and talked about it, because then the city planners can hear what your thoughts are concerning that area. Yes?
Motion approved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve. Is there any other discussion? Yes, Vice Chair.
The comments I've heard are almost overwhelmingly in support of the bakery and that concept for a neighborhood center, so I would also support that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, and again, this goes to City Council on Tuesday. Not tomorrow, next week. Item number 7, consideration with possible action on the request for a variance from sections 14-724 and 14-727 of the subdivision and plating ordinance to allow for a land division less than the allowable frontage and the creation of a flag-shaped lot at 516 Berry Creek Road, submitted by Muck Ford.
Thank you. So here's another CSM variance that we're looking at. The CSM has not been submitted yet, but I do have an exhibit to show here. What they're thinking of doing is to divide this lot. So when this lot was created, it did not have this portion, but it did have this entire flag-shaped parcel when it was created in the 80s. So we're already working with the lot that's been created this way. And then in '89, when this apartment complex was built, they did a quick claim deed to add this access onto Bear Creek Road, which the city does not approve currently, and it did not approve in '89. Quick claim deeds were done throughout the county, so we didn't really have a lot of say on this. So this is kind of what we've been working with from the beginning. There's an apartment complex here, and they're looking to divide the lots so that way they could be potentially sold at later dates, but also just because there's no way to get singular access to both of the apartment complexes due to some hills that are in this area. So with that, they would be able to do, the CSM line would be drawn here, which would give this lot proper frontage and proper square footage, so there would be no variance required for this lot. The existing southern portion of the lot would need the variance because it is a flag-shaped lot and also because it only has 31 feet of frontage for the multifamily unit. Since these are both existing conditions, we are recommending approval of this. There is not much that can be done. Singular access is not really a viable option given the hills on the location of the parcel. But also, if we do this CSM to create two lots, we are removing a dual frontage lot, which we don't allow in the city anymore. So to do this CSM would remove that, which would be able to do the proper addressing, one on Humboldt, one on Bear Creek Road. So we are recommending approval of the request.
Other questions?
This is in my district. I've looked at it, and I think that it makes a lot of sense to do this. I move to approve it.
Second.
So motion, a second to approve. Bob, did you want to say anything? Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Item number 8, consideration of possible action on the request to approve a plat of right-of-way and a map amendment for North Webster Avenue, submitted by the Improvement and Services Committee.
Thank you. We looked at this at our last meeting. This is for the North Webster Reconstruction Project. These are the acquisitions that have already been done. So far 11 parcels have been acquired. The last two, lot 10 and 11, which are circled on the screen here, which are right off of Eastman, those are part of this request specifically. So the last one did lots 1 through 9, where we amended our official map and then did the plat of right-of-way. This will be lots 10 and 11, and I imagine many more to come, but Tom Giese is here if you have any questions on the project.
We have this on our agenda for improving services later this week. I presume that this is consistent with what...
Exactly, yeah, it was just a timing because of the summer schedule and things like that.
I don't have a problem with
Motion approved.
Second. Motion and second to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Thank you for coming in and waiting for the whole meeting.
Thank you.
And other director's update on council action.
All right, at our meeting in June, ordinances, third reading was approved, the zoning ordinance regarding 3370 and 3386 Low Ridge Court. That moved from RR to R1, that was approved. And then we had 2 reports go with that. From our meeting on Monday, well, I'll come back to the request by Alderman Nicholson about the dwelling per square foot, but otherwise approving the amendment to the PUD, and then held off on the Bell Avenue plan, and then Webster Avenue, which we talked about. But then the Monday, June 12th meeting, the Belp Avenue plan was approved by council. So that was excellent to see. And again, appreciate Mark, I know, took the lead on that. A number of staff to get that done. So it's great. Another corridor done, so now we'll be hunting for our next big long-term planning project. And then also, the one item that was held was Alderman Nicholson requested the ordinance dealing with people per square foot and dwelling units. That got held up there, so we'll probably come back to that at council. And then just back at staff for us with the hedges, and then the alley vacation was approved. So with that, I also just wanted, if you want, to say goodbye to Mark Lyons. We are losing him on Monday. Oshkosh is stealing him, so if you're watching this, we're going to come to great Alan Davis. So with that, we appreciate his time here with the city. I think getting Belp under his belt and just all the projects that he's worked on here, really appreciate his service. Hopefully, maybe we can steal him back someday. But we do thank him, and just wanted to, if you wanted to make sure to say goodbye.
Thank you.
Just really wanted to get in one more planning commission meeting. So.
We're so glad you
we
had
love it.
one more meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark.
With that, that's all I have.
Good luck to you, bud.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, I miss you.
Pleasure working with you.
Indeed.
Same.
Pleasure working with you.
Good
too.
luck.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.